call the meeting to order. We may have another commissioner arrive. Good evening and welcome to the October 25th, 2017 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First order of business on the agenda is to vote the minutes of October 11th. Anybody want to make a
I read
motion?
them, I didn't see any problems. I make a motion to accept those.
Second.
All right, any other comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. Next we have, yes ma'am,
Oh,
Betsy?
oh,
You did have something after all?
well, I don't think we did the 4th. It's not on here, but we didn't do the 4th. Because I remember everybody said we haven't seen them yet, and there were some changes.
You're right. But I don't know if we can, if they're on the, not on
We didn't.
the. Well,
We
let's
didn't.
check the,
Nobody had read them.
All right, so
Nobody
I'm
had
just
read
gonna,
them.
I'm gonna have
They aren't the ones I
add-
sent you by email?
no, we have it. Move to adopt
Yeah.
as corrected.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's in. You're mistaken.
Well, all I can say is there are a lot of mistakes in
I
the
submitted,
units,
I submitted some after
for all the
fact.
units for the discussion about nitrogen. And you had PMDL and
I corrected
PMDL.
that.
But
I
a lot of the
corrected that.
units were incorrect.
All right, we'll give
I'll
me,
give it to you and you can,
we'll
out.
cross-reference it. Yeah, here you go.
All right,
Just
so
double check.
did we complete the vote on the 11th?
We did.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So, moving along, request for determination of applicability. Carl Forziati, Rivers End Road, map 34-06-007-017, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to vista prune and remove saplings.
Yes, Madam Chairman, they are requesting to withdraw their application.
Withdraw, okay.
No action required.
Yep.
No action required from us. Thank you. Judith LaCava, 455 Minot Road, East Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to pump, fill, and abandon the existing cesspool and install a new Title V sewage disposal system.
Yes, Madam Chairman, we are recommending a negative 2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that doesn't seem to be part of the RDAs we got handed a summary of, is it? I didn't, oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm wrong. All right.
Yep.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public on this RDA? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. All right, request for hearings under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So we have Warren Family Irrevocable Trust, care of Philip and Susan Warren, trustees. 132 Sitters Pond Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, for permission to establish a vista corridor, removal of invasive plants and synapid gall, wasp, diseased trees, and restoration with native tree and shrubs, installation of an osprey platform, after the factory approval of existing structures, flagstone patio, reconfigured egress stairs, rinse station and AC pads, mitigation compensation for unauthorized structures, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. Thank you, Raul. Do we have your cards? Perfect, thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Holmes & McGrath. We're the engineers and land surveyors representing the applicant. With us tonight also is Maria Hickey from Hickey Landscape. She's the contractor to be performing the work at the site. This project, some of you may recall, 2 years ago was awarded or issued a determination of applicability in favor to do some of the modifications to the existing house. That RDA is still valid. still has 1 more year under its permit. The homeowners wanted to do some additional work to improve the vegetation on the property. And when we did a site walk through the property, we noticed certain things that are different that was never shown on the plans for the RDA. So we suggested to the homeowners to bring this forward to also mitigate for it during this notice of intent. The resources on or within 100 feet of the property are land under the water, which is Cyrus Pond. We have an inland bank. We also have a coastal bank and land subject to coastal storm flowage. All of the work is taking place within the resource buffers and within the resource being the coastal bank. All the work proposed here is a vista pruning, or a vista corridor, I'm sorry, and proposed planting and removal of invasives. We're also proposing to remove 4 black oaks that are deceased and replace them with some indigenous trees. Some of the portion of the expansion of the house and decks, we found out that were different from what was approved, and it was the landing and stairs on the back of the property. The plans that were approved did not include such expanse landings, so we're now counting those landing expansion as additional structures within the buffer zone. So we're proposing mitigations at the proper rate of 2-to-1 if it's in the B zone, or 3-to-1 if it's in the A zone. So there's another changes on the property in that there is a rinse station or an outdoor shower, and there are 2 AC units. The location of the 2 AC unit pads was formerly the location of a shed, so there's like a trade-off in that area. And for the plantings, I'll have Maria Hickey introduce the information to you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Maria Hickey from Maria Hickey and Associates Landscaping. I want to just give a couple of handouts to you guys, a little bit of show and tell. I have done this before, but I know we have a couple of new members.
Get the poison ivy and mark.
You remember, it's not poison ivy, but it is. Yeah, if you want, just pass.
They need some WTF cards too.
Right, I know they do, right? I'll break off a couple of little pieces.
We've already had those.
You've already seen them.
Yeah.
Done there, done that. I'll leave them.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
hold one up for TV for anyone that wants
Sounds
to
good.
see. So what you're looking at is a sample of Hedera hibernica, which is Irish ivy. And of the hundreds of ivies out there in the world, it's one of 3 that's classified as a Class C, which means when you see it, you absolutely need to eradicate it and get rid of it. And the reason why, if you flip also to the second page, you'll see it takes on a life of its own. That second page is a picture of another property where we literally took chainsaws and cut like a seam down the tree, and you can take off, it's a whole casing of this. It develops its own root structure, and what it does, it's so invasive that it smothers and chokes out all native plants that are on the ground. Then it climbs up the tree and starts to do the same thing to the tree. On that front page, you're going to see, there's 4 oak trees there that are absolutely covered in this Irish ivy. And this ivy is different than all the other ivies out there because it flowers, and then it sets these little fruits. And the birds eat the berries, which are poisonous to a certain degree to the birds. The ones that are more sensitive, it will kill the bird. And then the ones that survive poop out the berry somewhere else, and now you have a new Irish ivy plant that takes hold on somebody else's property. It doesn't respond to chemical eradication because it has a waxy, glossy leaf, as you can see. So if you apply an herbicide to it, even one that we're licensed to use, it doesn't absorb it, it rolls right off. And and then you're damaging the tree and any other surrounding plantings that you're trying to preserve. So the most, or really the only method that we use is a mechanical removal. So whether you're mowing it, 50 times and burning it, or you actually take a machine and grub out the root structure. So I just wanted to present that in case some of you in the rain didn't make it out there today to visit the job site. Those that did will have noticed that this property in the area that we'd like to restore is completely overrun with Irish ivy. Not much else going on there. It's choking everything out. In addition, we have these trees that are diseased and on their latter stages of life, infected with significant gall wasp. And there are, anytime you have wind, you just need to look on the lawn and you can see all the branches and the limbs that are falling. And for the newer members that aren't familiar with this disease, it's a predatory wasp that lays its eggs subcutaneously into the tree. And it's like somebody having a heart attack from clogged arteries. It blocks the flow of nutrients down the limb to the branch, and the tree tries to heal around that or form a bypass root, which is called the gall. So you see swellings in the branches, and if you're ever walking on one of these properties and you look on the ground, you can pick up a branch and see hundreds of holes from where the eggs were injected. And unfortunately, there isn't a cure for this. You can slow down the stages of the disease by injecting the tree, which is pretty expensive. In your first 3 years, there is success. Sometimes you can save the tree, but once you pass that 4-year mark, the tree is toast. It can't recover from this. And when the eggs hatch inside the innards of the tree, they eat the larvae, which is even more destructive, and then they fly out, they mate, lay eggs, and repeat the process. And they prey on black oaks. So pretty much from Long Island to P-Town, including the islands, they've wiped out, hundreds and thousands of black oaks. And it is a cyclical disease, so we're seeing, the downside of it, and hopefully not too much, of an upside. But I did want to point that out to you because the brunt of our work that we're doing is underneath these trees that are dead or in their latter stages of dying. And the limbs become extremely brittle and unpredictable. So I value my life. I know the Warrens value their life. Nobody wants the liability of a limb crushing somebody. So what we're proposing to first do is to take down the trees, and we will be replanting them with more trees. There's an osprey that likes the area, so we've seen it out there nesting. I've worked with Audubon before with Ian Ives installing osprey poles and nesting platforms, so we'd like permission to do that with your blessing, so we can continue to provide that habitat for the osprey. And we're proposing to eradicate all of the Irish ivy and then restore the coastal bank and the buffer and the resource area with all native plantings. So we're looking at a combination of winterberry, clethra, viburnum, bayberry, and then as we're up on the lawn area, we want to do a pollinator garden with native perennials to create a habitat for the nesting songbirds, because they love like the echinacea, the thistle in it, and the bugs that come along with that, and create a nice habitat for the birds, bees, and butterflies. If you're looking out at the water, Raul, you can tell me which side is it. The northwest property line that has a ton of the ivy, right here. We also have some non-native taxus, which there's one that we'd like to take out so that we can preserve. There are some rhododendrons that are in there that are really enmeshed in the root system of this Irish ivy. So it's kind of like flipping a pancake, except we're not going to flip the rhododendron. We're going to go under it, lift it, try to get out as many of the roots as we can, and then move the rhododendron over for screening, and then plant a whole row of cedars, and then staggered heights coming down of native shrubs. And obviously, all erosion control barriers will be used, silt sock, hay bales, and jute matting to secure the hillside. We've done a number of these projects where we're renovating the resource area and restoring the native habitat, which right now is it's completely lacking due to the ivy, and had a lot of success in the last few years. Those of you that have seen our projects in person can attest to that. I know Jen's done some site visits and seen, how quickly, within a year, it's completely vegetated in a nice thicket. So, any questions?
Okay, thank you. Jen, did you have anything? Or
Yes.
shall we okay.
Yeah, okay, couple of things. One, Raul, why was the stone patio, the AC units, the rinse station, and an entirely new lawn installed without this commission's permission?
When we went to the site, we noticed that the patio consists of what used to be the stone steppers. The stone steppers were shown in the plan for the RDA. They just picked up the stone steppers and rearranged them as a patio. In terms of square footage, it adds up to more square footage than the steps path that was before. We don't know how it happened, but that's what we noticed on the site. The homeowners want to keep it, so that's why in this proposal we're asking it as an after-the-fact additional impervious surfaces, and we're calculating it as an increase in hardscape surfaces.
Okay, the landing that was constructed is actually moving closer to the resource area than the present primary structure, so that needs to go. We allowed the proposed steps that were really minimal in the RDA. That was not constructed the way it was reviewed with staff, so staff has a concern with that. I mean, every little tiny encroachment is an encroachment. So we're concerned with that. Two, do you know if your firm has submitted the additional check for?
I do know that it was submitted yesterday.
It
Yes.
was? Okay, okay. I'll double check with that, okay. Because that is an after the fact, so we did need an additional filing with that. I do have a concern with the landing moving closer. I'm a real stickler about moving closer. I don't even care if it's 5 feet closer. It is closer. I'm concerned with the massive amount of work, especially redoing that lawn. That was done without this board's approval. So I do have concerns with that. 3, you're saying that the mitigation you're required to put is 1,061 square feet. So you're removing rhododendrons, and you're gonna put your mitigation plantings where your rhododendrons are, correct?
Part of it, yes.
Part of it. Where is the other 100 or square feet going? Because the perennials do not count as mitigation. The perennials definitely do not count as mitigation on an after-the-fact filing. So I'm all for the perennials doing a border, but that cannot be calculated within that mitigation. And neither can the restoration of the coastal bank be considered part of that mitigation. So unless I'm missing something on the plan, all I see is 940 square feet of mitigation where you currently have rhododendrons. So I'm concerned about that. And the trees, I have an issue with taking them down. I think some of the limbs can be pruned, but there are ways to treat the trees. Far too many trees came down because of that gall wasp, and there are ways to treat it. So I would like your client to try that first before removing those fairly large oak off that coastal bank.
Can we wait until the board is finished, please?
That said, the only other comment I have is the osprey pole. Do you know how many different osprey poles are on Sitter's Pond and are within eye shot or sight line of that, where you want to put that? Because that is a concern. They are kind of a territorial bird, and I would definitely check with Mark on whether or not that's appropriately placed, because I know that Natural Resources actually put a floating platform out there, so we don't want too many platforms out there because it will cause conflict. So that is the only comments I have so far.
Thank you, Jen.
Can I respond?
No,
Okay.
wait, please wait. Maureen, did you have a chance to go to the site? Then would you kick it off for the board, please?
I think a certified arborist should be pulled in on this. The gall wasp has been actually effectively being treated. Yes, it is, it's a project to do it. These plants, these trees are very substantial. With them gone, I would never recommend to grub the roots out. Well, you have that in your narrative, just take the stumps out. So taking the stumps out is definitely not something we would do, but I think that there should be a protocol to see if those could be saved. They're very substantial, they're holding that bank. They're basically the only trees left on that bank besides one conifer. And the mitigation for those, even if we did allow them to be taken down, are proposing 5 cedars, which are 3 feet off the lot line, and they're 5 foot on center, and they're basically a little soldier row of a screen. And we put buffer, when you remove plants from the A buffer, that's where they go back. So even if we did allow it, the appropriate planting for those would be back in the A buffer, not along the property line as a screen, because they're removing the rhododendron. The invasives there, I remember this site from when it was under an RDA. And I actually had to call the office twice because I thought I was on the wrong site, because it was so different than the last time I was there. The brand new lawn, the entire lawn is new. In the old RDA, there was going to be removal of part of the paved driveway compensated by the removal. The paved driveway is exactly the same size. I can remember it was Jeff Johnson, and we talked an awful lot about those step stones that were all over the property, and that a few of them could be used. The ones that are there, I could not confirm if they were the step stones that were there before or not. I didn't DNA them. Again, the mitigation, the 500, I think it's 580 feet of perennials does not count as mitigation. I think it's a wonderful addition to the site for what its habitat qualities are, but it is not going to eliminate or add to the woody indigenous buffer that we need on that bank. The other thing, if you read through the narrative, once they cut those trees down and grub, and it says take the stumps out, that basically leaves that entire side of that bank, except for the one conifer, which I actually didn't get down there. It was covered with stuff, and it was pretty mucky down there. And I think there's another oak that's on the corner that's in pretty good shape, right on the property line. So that basically denudes that property, that whole side, of absolutely zero tree growth. Then the corridor that they want to put, the view corridor, which I can understand, doesn't have that. They need to put trees back. So I think they need to either go back where they may be able to allow to remove the oaks, and if not, then they need to be somewhere on that bank. I think if anybody went, I don't think everybody was here when the RDA came out, but we're getting this more often, and I think we've been really good about it, where we understand that you can't plant during certain times of the year because you can't get the stock, or you can't maintain them during the winter or whatever. This particular one, which was in 2015, 8/23/2015, Jeff Johnson asked if the plantings could be done with a new notice of intent filing for the buffer restoration. And because no one would be in the house and there was no water, and the adjacent invasive plant species will grow over them. If anybody went out to the site, primarily, that's all that's there. There's been no attempt to protect any of the arrowwood or any of the native plants on that bank currently. They've been neglected to the point where now they are taken over by the invasives. So that if we move forward with this and we do allow it, and again, in this narrative, they want to wait until May, that no work be done on that site until May, because I couldn't even imagine anybody cutting and denuding an entire coastal bank with the weather coming, with the rain we just had today, if that was done last week, nothing to stabilize it. There's nothing in here saying how it's going to be stabilized with jute mat or anything else after the invasives are removed. So I just think there's a lot missing here, and I think maybe with some more work on it, it could be, doable. But with Jen moving closer, that's saying that, well, we didn't get a permit, we moved closer, so we'll just give you a couple plants. And I think this is atrophic in that position. So that's me kicking it off. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Courtney?
Maureen has said it pretty eloquently, and I absolutely agree with Maureen on this. And I've had personal experience with gall wasp control. So I had 6 oaks on my property, some of whom which were 150 years old. And I did not want to lose them. And they were treated for gall wasp. They were also being infested with winter moth. And I started a program about 3 years ago on those trees, and they're healthy now. It cost a fair amount of money, but I made the effort because not because particularly I was near a wetland buffer or any of that, but because I hated to lose trees like that. And I don't hear the sense from your client through you that that's a goal, and it needs to be a goal. So I agree with her. I also agree with her about the timing on this work. I'm frankly, and people on this board know, that I'm not very happy about after the fact approvals. People should be aware what the constraints are and do what's permitted, and if they don't like what's permitted, they come in and ask. And I know that one of the abutters wrote a thing and made the comment, it's a lot easier to come in and ask for forgiveness than to ask. But, it irks the hell out of me. And I feel like this board is sort of analogous to the priest who hears confession. And you're coming in and saying, Father, I've sinned. And so Father looks at them and says, well, say 10 Hail Marys and put $5 in the poor box. Okay? So, in this case, I'm not convinced that we're getting the equivalent of the 10 Hail Marys and the $5 in the poor box. I want more.
Thanks, Court. Betsy?
Thanks, Mary. I'm definitely concerned about the stability of the bank, and I also have experience, but unlike you, I had one tree that had died with gall wasp taken down, but I had another tree that looked like it might make it, and the arborist who came to my house said, let it go, we've noticed that a lot of them are recovering on their own. And he said, I feel kind of bad because I've been treating people's trees, but maybe some of them wouldn't have made it had we not treated them. But he said there are a percentage. So I would definitely like to see these saved if possible. And I'd like to see something from a certified arborist about her or his view of what this would be. The other thing I don't understand about this plan is what takes place here? This is all blank,
They're gonna remove everything.
and then just leave it blank?
Yeah. I-
There's on the, when
With
when
the
you look
outside.
at the plan, when you're looking from the, when you're in the pond and you're looking towards the land, on the left side of the bank, it shows where various kinds of vegetation is gonna go, but on the right side of the bank where these trees are taken down, it's just all blank. And the other thing is, if it should be that some of these trees, one or more, was recommended to come down, it's tree for tree, remember, or inches for inches, and we don't have the inches.
We have no inches.
We have no inches on these trees. And I think that's it.
Okay, Jamie?
Can't add to that.
Kevin?
Just a curiosity of mine, at the end of the existing path, you note the platform, and that's it, there's nothing more said about it. I wasn't brave enough to stand on the piece of wood that's portrayed as the platform. And beyond it, there appears to have been an attempt to have a couple of steps into the pond, and I'm just wondering, is there any plan to do something about that in the future?
Yes. Am I allowed to talk yet, or?
I'd really rather get through the
Okay.
board first.
Okay.
Do you mind that, Kevin?
And I'm making a list.
No, no,
I'll
that's
answer
fine.
everyone's questions.
Yeah, she can handle everything at once.
That's fine.
Okay. Do you have anything else?
That's enough, thanks.
All right, Peter?
When I was out at the site with Betsy, it looked like one of the trees was completely dead without any leaves except for the Irish ivy just climbing on it. With this picture, it would be the tree to the right, and it looked really dead. And the other three trees had leaves on them, but one it looked hopeless. So otherwise, I don't have any comments.
Thanks, Peter. Mark?
I have another one of those anecdotal stories about gall wasps and winter moth, and I had a couple trees like that on my property, and they looked pretty bad one year. I followed the policy of let it go, let's see what happens, and within 2 years, both trees were in excellent condition. I think certainly waiting a little bit is appropriate, at least for most of the trees. And I hate the idea of taking all those trees off without the bank and essentially leaving the bank pretty much empty.
Void.
So I think we need something more in that bank area on the right-hand side of the property, the northeast side.
Okay, I'm going to say something.
Sure.
You can go. I agree strongly with what's been said about the need to get the opinion of a certified arborist, and also about the need to do something, were these trees to be removed, to do something about that portion of the bank. And I would just like to also say that I find it kind of unbelievable that this work would have been done right after an RDA process was gone through. It strains credulity that the applicant didn't understand that that was not in order. So, sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
your turn now, Maria.
All right. Okay, so in order, first I wanted to, and I'm not sure why it's not shown on the plan, but the intention all along was for any trees that were dead from the gall wasp that are taken out, that we're putting a new tree in the same place, like a pretty good sized tree. There's one, when you're looking at the pond, first one on the left, doesn't have a leaf on it. It's been that way for 2 years. When I went out in 2015, I have pictures from them. There's another tree that's about 80% defoliated, and it's been that way since 2015. And then there are two that are marginal. So all day long, absolutely, we would welcome an arborist to come in and certify that. I would never take down trees and not put trees back up. I mean, that's irresponsible to do that. So I'm not sure, because it says in the narrative and even on the plan that we were on number 6, and even if you look at the plan down here, okay, it says infected trees to be removed and replaced with tupelo and/or red maple.
Well, it doesn't show it
Doesn't show
on the plan.
Okay.
It is on the plan.
No,
Where?
it's not.
It was
Where?
submitted.
You show it to us.
It's written.
Well, it says
It's
replace.
written,
Show where
it's
they
not
are.
shown.
You're not actually stating where you're gonna put them back.
And,
I was
and
trying to put them in as close
But
a
you need to say
location of
that.
what I'm
Okay,
taking out.
so if that's put on the plan, that would,
Sure,
take
so
care of that
it's a
point.
remove and replace.
we wouldn't want that to happen,
Okay.
because those roots should stay to stabilize that bank.
So we can work with Jen as to placement of new trees?
No, I want them on the plan. I do not have time to keep going out to these sites on placement and everything else. Put them on a plan so we can go out
Okay.
once in the field and look at these things. We just need it on the plan,
So we-
Raoul. And I want them staked in the field next time.
Okay, so that was number 1 on the tree. Number 2, the
And
osprey.
and also caliper inch. We have no clue of the caliper inch.
Okay.
okay, Peter's got his hand up, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
defer to,
Sure,
Okay,
give it to him.
on this plan, without the coloring,
yeah.
it says proposed trees on the edge of the lot.
That's
And-
separate, that's a
and
totally
That's different.
That's what was causing confusion,
Right,
sure.
because we saw the trees coming down to be
Yeah.
replaced, but the only place that was on the drawing that says proposed trees was there.
Okay, and it actually, I believe it says in writing on the plan, for diseased oaks to come out to be replaced with tupelo and/or red maple. And
Again.
if permission is denied to remove the two the one that's completely dead, one that's 80% dead, the one that's closest to the path has 2 limbs. So it's like, if we take the limbs, you're just gonna have a trunk that is gonna fall. It's pretty brittle.
But an arborist could tell us that.
Okay, so the next thing I wanted to move on to was the Osprey platform. When I did talk to Ian Ives of Mass Audubon, he did a search, he said on that side of the pond in that area, he didn't have any platforms that they have installed. He said a homeowner could have done one privately, but I would be working,
Mass Audubon is not the only entity that puts up osprey poles. As I just said, Natural Resources, I believe, installed a floating platform in that
Okay.
pond. So I don't want to argue about this
Sure.
point. Just check with
I
Mark,
will,
check with
I will.
Natural Resources, and see if it's appropriate to put the osprey pole up.
you got it.
I don't want there to be an issue out there with
Sure.
competing nesting birds. It's just that. There's no argument. We just have to
You
look
got it.
into it.
No worries. And I actually
Okay.
did talk to Mark and,
Yeah.
okay, so, on this, if you guys can look
Can I
right here.
bring something up about this?
Sure.
So, I realize people might not want to have a dead tree. However, this is not just for ospreys. There are a lot of different birds that use this as a perch. And so, just for people to know that that's what's going to be lost if this dead tree comes down. And
I
it's
just don't
not
want-
replaced by, it's not like there's an osprey nest on this part of the bank. And that's what a osprey pole does. I mean, I'm not saying not to have it, but that's what, the wildlife value that's being lost is as a perch for blue heron, for osprey, for other birds that are hunting.
And we are providing additional trees on the bank. My bigger concern was the trees that are infected with gall wasp become very unstable and dangerous once they've died. Because the inside of the tree
Well, we
in the
want-
limbs have
we
Well,
wanna
been,
hear
we
something
know
from an
this.
arborist.
okay.
Right, and we're not gonna say no if
Sure.
if we get a certified
Yep.
opinion that they're
Okay.
dangerous.
Got it. And so I'm just coming from a safety standpoint. I
Right,
don't want
it's entirely understandable.
working on that area. Okay, this area right here, when you guys had asked, I'm gonna hold the, if you can see right here, the plan had already been submitted when I made a subsequent site visit and identified that there's privet growing in here. So I would like to also, remove the privet and plant additional native shrubs.
I think your project team needs to regroup, go back, take everything that the board has stated, everything the staff has stated, go back and revise the plan. The mitigation calculations are not correct. Now you're asking to take additional vegetation off, privet, fine, but that's not on the plan. As I said, I don't mind the perennial border, but that cannot be considered mitigation definitely for after the fact. Raul, I want you to go back and look at that RDA very carefully and read the correspondence between Mark and Jeff Johnson regarding the stone steppers and everything else, and make sure that all your calculations are correct and that everything has been accounted for within this. I mean, I appreciate you dropping off the little colored plan that you gave us tonight, but, or in here, that, yeah, to let us know. But I want you to just go back and look at the RDA, find out how many osprey platforms are there. I know that Mark and Jeff went back and forth about the platform that Kevin had mentioned. That's still on this plan. It was stated by your firm that you had no records of it, so it shouldn't be there. And just kind of revise your plan.
You're welcome to speak next. I just want to make sure we don't lose track of the question that Kevin asked also about the
Sure.
platform. So, what?
That's the platform I was just talking about.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
Essentially, I want to reinforce what Jen says. You need to go back and put this back together again. We need clear delineation of all of the mitigation that is going to be done from the confessional point of view. And that's clear and separate from what we're doing here, which is, getting rid of invasives. All of which is avenue, but it's got to be real clear, and there can be no overlap. Perhaps you can do some outside of the box things, like if you've got a dead oak, if you've convinced us needs to go away, cut off the limbs and put the osprey platform on top of it. Things like that. Use some imagination. And the only other question I have, which is on the Irish ivy,
Yes.
can it be treated
She said no.
with essentially a cut and drip? In other words, you cut the root right at the base, and as soon as you cut it, you apply an herbicide to it.
The issue is, it's not just a root. I mean, it takes on a tree form if you go out and you see it in the field.
No, I understand. I have it
Yeah.
on my own property, and so I'm well aware of the issue. I didn't realize what it was until you just
Sure. I mean,
educated me, but
my recommendation, if it's in an area that, it's, you can easily do this, would be to mow it, 10 different times and then spray, because you'll have cut exposed stems.
I understand. Applying herbicide directly to the leaves with the wax on it
It's
is
not
not
gonna
going to work. If you cut the root down at the base,
Yep.
can you apply, have you had any success
We
applying
haven't,
herbicide directly
but-
to that and seeing whether that kills the roots?
We have not had any success. I've been trying for 10 years.
Okay. That's all I have.
Maureen?
I just had a couple of things. If you talk to Audubon or DNR, we will need a letter, not just I spoke to them, because
Sure.
we always want those in the file.
Okay. And I have that, actually.
Okay.
Should have submitted it.
And then one thing I missed, you said there was going to be graduated planting on the, which would be the west side,
Correct.
where the cedars are. But that's not on the plan either.
Okay.
So, not that we're saying you won't do it, but things, Marie, have to be on the plan.
Yeah.
Your word is fine, but they have to be on the plan, because this is exactly what happens.
Sure.
Without caliper inches, without where you're gonna place things, without, and you did put in there that you are gonna jute mat. But my question is, where you were gonna jute mat, where the oaks are gonna be, is that everywhere? that you-
Everywhere.
All right, so
Everywhere.
where the oaks are now standing, according to your narrative, that is gonna, pretty much, there's nothing in there. There are a couple arrowwood, I think.
But I'm going to replant that entire area.
That's
Well,
not
it's
shown
not
on the plan.
I know. So I'm not sure why it wasn't put on the plan, because
Well,
I'll
and
take that
it
up
has
with
to be on the
Jeff.
plan, and
Raoul.
it has to be spacing, and it has to show what you're doing. Just going in there and giving you a wholesale permit to clear cut, apply herbicides, remove oak trees, destabilize a coastal bank, to remove the stumps, which it does say in the narrative, you are removing the stumps. You're gonna bring a small excavator, you're gonna remove the stumps. All of these things have a huge impact, and this is just what you're adding to basically what would have been an enforcement for the patio and the whole new lawn construction. And I'm out for the jury on the irrigation that was there, because I don't think there was irrigation there last time we went. And they're saying to maintain the irrigation. So these are things, I think unfortunately we're mixing up, not mixing up, but we've got really an enforcement that's now trying to be, not smoothed over, that's not the word I want to say, but justifiable with all this great planting that you're doing, which is wonderful. But I think we have to digress a little bit back to that patio. It is quite substantial. There are no dry wells there, Raoul, on that, none, but they're on that side where the old proposed porch, which is now a porch, and the patio and the steps. And that downspout today was like a fire hose running down the brand-new seeded lawn down the coastal bank, so, the inland bank. So those, we have to address those. Those aren't even on the plan. There's not even a dry well on this plan. There's not even a dry well on the old plan. So the ones that were hooked into a dry well were all bubbling over. They weren't working. There are a lot of lack of maintenance, lack of follow-through from the old RDA to even this new notice, your proposed new notice of intent. And it goes right back to, we will do this. Jeff saying, we will do this. Just give us till May and we will do this. And it didn't happen. So now not only do we have that not done, now we actually have more things that have gone wrong there than from the beginning.
November 15th work for you, Raoul?
Keep in mind that you're gonna need something from an arborist by the time you come back.
Okay.
In dry wells,
At
caliper
the
inches.
request, at the request of the applicant.
Well, Raoul has to request it.
Yes, I would like to request a continuation of the notice of intent.
Okay, is November 15th good?
November
Would
15th
that
is good.
work for you, Raoul? That gives you a couple of weeks.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to November 15th.
Second comment.
Yes, Courtney, go right ahead.
Just for your edification and future presentation of things, we've spent half an hour on this,
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
45 minutes, I'm sorry. And that would not have happened if you come into us with a complete plan with all the things we're looking for on there. This thing could have been resolved in 10 minutes. Now it's coming back again for continuance. The less complete your plans are, the more questions we're gonna ask, and the more things that come up. So you think about that from a tactical standpoint. And I say that to you, Raoul, because I've seen it happen with other presentations. You come in with a complete presentation with all the questions anticipated and answered. Yeah, you're gonna get some curveballs, but if 90% of it or 98% of it is good, we're gonna smile and close the hearing and take it under advisement.
I think a lot of it just had to do with the plantings.
Are we all set, folks? You need a vote? All those, is there anything else? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, unanimous, so moved. See you on the 15th. All right, now, continued requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. James and Erica Milligan, 59 Charles River Road, Wacoit, Massachusetts. This one's already been read into the record, so I think we can just let Matt take it away.
You want to?
Yes.
Yes, we need the quorum.
Oh, the quorum
Mark,
is.
Peter, Kevin, Jamie, Mary, Betsy, Maury. Courtney's not on this one.
Oh, good. Can I go home?
No, you may not.
But Betsy was on it twice.
Sorry.
Was you on for?
Actually, that's probably Courtney.
What?
Was you
Yeah,
on for?
Courtney was here.
Oh,
Courtney was here.
okay. All right,
Courtney was here.
take it away.
You may have been asleep.
Put us in a better mood.
For the record, Matt Costa, Cape Islands Engineering. I know we got a full agenda tonight, I'll make it brief. We had last time we were here for a pier modification, we had a great suggestion on actually, because the pier was so far under the allowed maximum length, to actually extend it out further than we originally proposed for the purpose of getting the boat that can be docked at the end of it into deeper water. We did that. We extended the existing pier out another 17 feet, and we aligned the originally proposed 4x15 T and outpiling on the end of it. So we've effectively pushed everything out into deeper water. Also, for mooring, I showed the mooring field in
Thank you.
a relatively realistic length. I did meet with Jen on this ahead of time. I think everything's in order where we can move forward on this. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you,
This is Matt Costa's favorite dock project.
Matt. Yeah, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mark? I mean, for Matt, Mark,
No, thank you.
Peter.
Did you review this again with the waterways people? The original proposal, they sent you a letter, which was in the original documentation, but the proposed outreach or expansion, did you roll it by someone?
We did not resubmit it to the harbor master.
You need to do that, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because he signed off on it, so we do need to resubmit it to him, and that's fine. I mean, it'll
I
be,
would not anticipate any.
well, we'll put it as a condition. Very good question, Peter. We'll put it as a condition, and it does need to go through Greg, but
Okay.
we'll just make sure that he signs off on it prior to you constructing it,
Yeah, we'll
just so there's no navigational issues in his mind.
Sure, we'll bring it by tomorrow.
Thank you very much. If you can do it before I get the order written, even better.
Kevin.
I still
He's
think
pointing
it's-
over there.
Yeah, I think it's still, I mean, you stand on the end of the pier and you look out there and they talk, I know nothing about this navigation stuff, but I mean, and they talk about the size of the boat. You know, if the harbor master says fine, terrific.
Yeah, we do need to defer to the harbor master on the navigational issues up in that area, so.
Yeah, but if you stand on the end of the pier and you look out there,
Oh,
it
yeah.
really doesn't seem that far from here to there.
No, it doesn't.
Okay,
There's an Army
I'll
Corps,
shut up.
right?
Yeah.
There's an Army Corps requirement that it can't be more than 25% of the width of any
okay,
water body.
okay. Thank you.
Jamie. Betsy.
Nothing.
Maureen.
Nothing.
Courtney.
Nothing.
All right.
I move that we close this hearing and take it under advisement.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for good night.
Good night.
This will be exciting to get home early.
All right, so next we have to vote some orders of conditions. And the first one,
Hang on, Madam Chairman, hold on 1 second. Sorry, let me close this.
just let me know when you're ready.
I will, I just need to look at something real quick. Stop it! You're so bad. Okay.
We didn't,
Lighten up, come on.
we didn't think he was the naughty one, but now we know.
He's
We're
really
knowing.
been acting up lately.
You guys need to lighten up.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, but that was worth it. Okay, 41, what is Lake Shore? Oh my
241 Lake Shore
Shore
Drive.
Drive. I'm having a brain.
That was,
Tom Bunker, right?
yeah, Tom Bunker.
Oh, that's the little addition.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
little addition that comes towards the road.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And his little mitigation planting, his dry wells, and I have not even one bit of red ink on mine. How'd that
Yeah,
happen?
I have no.
How'd that happen?
It's the zone 2, so, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Does anybody have any, I don't recall any real issues with this.
No.
I move to
Oh,
accept
wait,
as discussed.
Oop, Jen's got something.
Oops.
Yeah, I just have a special condition with the shrubs identified over here, so yeah, that's fine.
All right.
I second it.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, sorry, Mark's got something to say first.
I forgot, did you say anything about the dry well, or a dry well for the shower?
I think I did, remember?
I remember on the
Either dry well or
minutes
we
you
talked
commented
about
on it,
having
but I didn't
A
hear.
French drain.
French drain.
French drain.
Yeah, he said he would,
Because it was like shooting out off onto the patio.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. So, are we ready now? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous, so moved. 11 Sandy Lane.
I'm not on this.
Septic upgrade.
Yep.
You're not on this one? Because we're voting on it. Oh, sure.
So we need to remove the dock that's there.
Yep.
Then they have, okay, wait a minute, then they put their new plan in. We're gonna remove the dock. Remove the dock. Wait a minute. Okay, this is the revised plan. We have the deed restriction.
Yep. Elevation change.
Wait a minute, how many revisions do we have on this plan?
Yeah, cite the most recent.
Can you look in the file?
Yeah.
I need,
They're all in the, I already put them in the tray. I was
Overly
being way
efficient.
too efficient, thinking we'd get home by 8.
We should have been getting home by,
We should have been home by 7:30.
yeah.
tank was the H20 load, located pump and bills, revised plan for the grade.
Wasn't there oak tree removal? that
The
la-
oak tree
the
was
na-
in the road layout.
Layout.
So there was
And that-
something about that.
Yeah.
And then they had the yeah. For some reason, I don't have the other plan on this one.
What do you
Oh,
need?
yeah, no,
What do you need to know, the most recent revision?
yeah. It wasn't gonna be September 20th, it was gonna be a different date.
This one. Must be this.
October 4th.
Yeah. Okay.
Added existing cesspool, October
Yeah,
2nd.
yeah, okay.
Because we asked them to put that on locate on the plan.
Okay, it said October 2nd or 4th plan?
Second.
Okay,
October
fine.
2nd.
All right.
It was received on the 4th, that might
Okay,
be
that's
what you're
fine.
thinking about.
No, as long as we have that.
Had the
I don't think there
engineer.
was something about the 20 and the 16-inch oak, but I can't remember.
Those were in the road layout.
Those are in the road layout.
And the other thing we did ask for was the wall, because it's pretty...
Engineered wall.
An engineered wall.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Did they submit anything? On the engineered wall?
Betsy, does that plan have a detail on the wall?
I didn't see it.
Oh, look.
Well, he changed it to a port in place, so
So we require that.
So does that
Put in
need to
place,
be
It doesn't give me any angst. It was if it was gonna be one of those
block walls?
block
no, I
walls.
think originally.
Yeah, but if it's
that was the
over a
plan.
certain
I
height,
think
it has
because
to
of
be
the-
engineered.
If I remember right.
Because of the septic and the breakout.
Yeah.
It had to
And it
be
has to
poured.
be a
He's gonna change it
perm-
to port in place.
It has to be permitted by the town, by the building code, building department.
Well, that would
I think
have
that
to
will
be,
come in front of the building department. They'll pick up
that would
on
have
it.
to be engineered.
Well,
and
I think we
approved by-
should just.
Yeah,
throw
I'll just
Special
put,
condition in there.
yeah, I'll throw a special condition, that's fine.
about,
Okay.
you know, It has to have a permit and it has to be engineered.
Yep,
We need to see it before they can start construction. That's what I had to do.
okay.
Okay, anything else, folks? All right.
Move to accept as discussed.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Flip side.
The next item is to discuss and vote the commission's position on Article 19 for November town meeting. We could,
I'm gonna go through that real quick, Madam.
well, I'll just say, if everybody has read the materials that got sent, so you have some idea what's going on. And so there are two related issues with this, and, so my view is that we should say no, it's a no vote as far as we're concerned. One is that the parcels in question are where the restoration project is all planning to go, and the Heritage Trail and all that, so they're in conflict. And one of the reasons that the article would have no legally binding force is that because of the planned project, we recommended, and the selectmen voted January, almost a year ago, we recommended, I think it was in November, the preceding November, that they formally take it out of agricultural use because it hasn't been, the amount of time had elapsed when that becomes appropriate. It's 3 years under our regulations, 5 years under the state regulations. So it had met the 3 year out of production milestone. And I can say more. People can.
What do you want, just a vote for us to?
Yeah, so, right, yes.
Well, the board needs,
But we can have more discussion, but Betsy can put a motion out there.
Sure.
I'll let you put a motion in there.
I'll make a motion that we
oppose.
agree, that we agree with the indefinite postponement
Yes.
with the rationale being the advice of town council, as
And that
noted
you
here,
oppose Article 19.
which
Yep.
opposes the article.
Article 19.
I mean, yeah, there could be a lot of discussion here. The essence of it is that the world has changed since that was voted.
Right.
I mean,
I second that we oppose Article 19.
Okay, we could take a vote, or if anybody has any questions about the background on this any further? Everybody set to go? All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
Betsy has one quick thing.
No, afterwards.
Betsy, quick.
I make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
You could find out.
Done. No, she didn't want it in the minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Say 10 hours.
No, it's
October, Betsy, October 30th,
It's Monday, right?
Monday.
You can take a
Monday, October 30th. Park
Plant it in your
Street.
backyard, right?